The rain fell in sheets across downtown Atlanta, turning the alleyway into a river of broken dreams and desperation. Zuri Anderson pressed her 6-year-old daughter closer to her chest, her body shielding Sophia from both the storm and the 3 men advancing toward them with predatory smiles. Her back hit the cold brick wall, nowhere left to run. "Please," Zuri whispered, her voice breaking. "She's just a child." The lead man laughed, a sound that made her skin crawl. "Should have thought about that before you witnessed what you saw, sweetheart." Zuri closed her eyes, feeling Sophia's small arms tighten around her neck. This was it. After everything she'd survived, everything she'd fought for, it would end here in a dirty alley. She whispered a final prayer, her grandmother's words tumbling from her lips like a lifeline to heaven. Then, a voice cut through the darkness like a blade. "Touch her, and I'll personally remove every finger from your hands before I kill you." Zuri's eyes snapped open to see a figure emerge from the shadows, tall and commanding, moving with lethal grace. The men who'd been advancing on her suddenly froze, terror replacing their confidence. And in that moment, Zuri Anderson's entire world shifted on its axis. 3 days earlier, the fluorescent lights of Grant's diner buzzed with their usual irritating hum as Zuri Anderson wiped down table 7 for the 3rd time that shift. Her feet ached in the worn sneakers she'd had for 2 years, but she kept the smile plastered on her face, the same bright professional smile that earned her decent tips, despite the exhaustion radiating from every pore. "Order up, Zuri." Beverly Grant's voice cut through the dinner rush chaos. "Got it," Zuri called back, already moving toward the kitchen window. At 28, she'd perfected the art of perpetual motion. Constant movement was the only way to survive 3 jobs, single motherhood, and the crushing weight of impossible circumstances. She delivered the plates with practiced efficiency, her movements graceful despite the fatigue. Zuri had always moved like that, with a natural elegance her grandmother Gladys had once said came from their ancestors, women who'd survived the impossible and danced anyway. "Coffee, hon?" she asked the elderly couple at table 4, her genuine warmth evident in every word. It wasn't an act. Zuri actually cared about people, even when her own world was falling apart. The dinner rush finally slowed around 9 p.m. Zuri leaned against the counter, rolling her shoulders and checking her phone. 2 missed calls from her landlord. Her stomach dropped. She knew what that meant. The eviction notice she'd received last week wasn't a bluff. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world, girl." Brielle Jackson appeared beside her, her best friend since high school and the only other black woman working the evening shift. "Just the usual." Zuri tried to smile, but Brielle saw right through it. "Zuri." Brielle's voice went soft, concerned. "What's really going on?" Before Zuri could answer, the diner's door chimed. Both women looked up, and the entire atmosphere of the restaurant shifted. 5 men entered, moving with a coordinated precision that immediately set Zuri's instincts on edge. But it was the man at the center who commanded every eye in the room. Hwang Ji-won stood approximately 6 feet tall, his presence filling the space like a physical force. His black hair was styled with perfect precision, and he wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Zuri made in 6 months. But it was his face that captured attention. Sharp, aristocratic Korean features set in an expression of controlled power, and eyes that seemed to see everything and miss nothing. He was objectively the most magnetically attractive man Zuri had ever seen, and the most dangerous. She could feel it in her bones. The men took a corner booth, the best table in the house, though no one had seated them. The other customers suddenly found their meals fascinating, no one willing to make eye contact with the new arrivals. "Oh, hell no," Brielle whispered. "That's Hwang Ji-won. Girl, that man runs half of Atlanta's underground. We need to—" "I'll take their table," Zuri heard herself say. "Are you insane?" Maybe she was. But rent was due. Sophia needed new shoes, and the tips from a table like that could make a real difference. Zuri Anderson hadn't survived this long by being afraid. She grabbed menus and approached the table, her heart pounding but her face composed. As she got closer, she noticed details, the subtle tension in the men's shoulders, the way they were positioned to have clear views of all exits, the slight bulge under one man's jacket that suggested a weapon, and Ji-won himself watching her approach with eyes like black ice, assessing, calculating. "Good evening, gentlemen," Zuri said, her voice steady and professional, meeting Ji-won's gaze directly. "Welcome to Grant's Diner. Can I start you with something to drink?" For a moment, Ji-won simply stared at her, and Zuri felt the weight of that attention like a physical touch. Most people, she suspected, couldn't hold his gaze. But Zuri Anderson had been looked down on, dismissed and underestimated her entire life. She'd learned long ago that the only way to survive was to refuse to lower her eyes. Something flickered in Ji-won's expression. Surprise, perhaps, or interest. "Coffee," he said finally, his voice deep and accented, the Korean inflection evident, but his English perfect. "Black." "Same for all of us?" added the man to his right, who carried himself with the alertness of a bodyguard. This, Zuri would later learn, was Seo Byung-jun, Ji-won's most trusted lieutenant. "I'll have that right out for you," Zuri said, turning to leave. "Wait." Ji-won's single word stopped her mid-step. She turned back, eyebrow raised in question. "What's your name?" It was a simple question, but something in the way he asked it, the focused intensity, the genuine curiosity, made it feel like more. "Zuri," she answered. "Zuri Anderson." "Zuri," he repeated, as if testing how her name felt in his mouth. "It means beautiful in Swahili." She blinked, surprised he knew that. "That's right. An appropriate name," Ji-won said, his eyes never leaving her face. Zuri felt heat creep up her neck, but maintained her composure. "I'll get your coffee, Mr. Huang, but you may call me Ji-won." The fact that he'd given her permission to use his first name clearly shocked the men at his table. Byung-jun's eyes widened fractionally before his face returned to neutral. Zuri nodded and headed to the coffee station, feeling Ji-won's gaze follow her every step. Brielle grabbed her arm the moment she was out of earshot. "What the hell was that?" Brielle hissed. "He never talks to anyone like that. And did he just... Girl, he's interested in you. He's a customer, Brie. Nothing more. That man is not just a customer. He's dangerous, Zuri. Like actually dangerous." "I know," Zuri said quietly, pouring 5 cups of coffee with steady hands despite her racing heart. "But dangerous or not, his money spends the same, and I need every dollar I can get." She delivered the coffee, took their food orders with professional efficiency, and tried to ignore the way Ji-won watched her throughout. It wasn't lecherous or crude. It was something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or recognition. Like he saw something in her that intrigued him. The men stayed for over an hour, talking in low voices in a mixture of English and Korean. Zuri caught fragments as she refilled their coffee. Discussions of territory, shipments, someone named Bayek, who was becoming a problem. When they finally prepared to leave, Ji-won signaled her over. Byung-jun handed her a black credit card without looking at the check. "The meal was excellent," Ji-won said, standing. Up close, Zuri realized he was even taller than she'd thought, radiating a controlled power that was both intimidating and compelling. "Thank you, Zuri Anderson." "You're welcome, Mr. Huang. Have a good evening." As they left, Byung-jun returned with the receipt for her to sign. When Zuri looked at the tip line, her breath caught. He'd tipped $500 on a $60 check. "There must be a mistake," she started. "No mistake," Byung-jun said quietly. "Mr. Huang is very particular about showing appreciation for quality service." After they left, Zuri stared at the receipt, her hands trembling slightly. $500. That was Sophia's preschool for next month. That was groceries. That was... "Zuri!" Beverly's sharp voice cut through her thoughts. "Office. Now." Zuri's stomach dropped. She followed Beverly to the small office behind the kitchen, dread building with every step. Beverly didn't sit down. "I got a call from your landlord. Mrs. Grant, I can explain. He wanted to know if you still worked here. Said something about an eviction and wanting to verify employment for court documents." Beverly crossed her arms. "Zuri, I like you. You're a good worker, but I can't have my employees' personal drama affecting my business." "It won't, I'm handling it." "Are you?" Beverly's expression softened slightly. "Look, I'm sorry. I really am. But I can't take the risk. I'm going to have to let you go." The words hit Zuri like a physical blow. "Please, I need this job. I have a daughter. I'm sorry, I'll give you 2 weeks severance, but I need you to clear out your locker tonight." Zuri stood there, numb, as her world crumbled around her. First the eviction, now this. And Sophia, God, Sophia needed her to be strong to figure this out. "I understand," Zuri managed to say, her voice surprisingly steady. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mrs. Grant." She cleaned out her locker with mechanical efficiency, ignoring Brielle's concerned questions, and walked out of Grant's diner for the last time. The November air bit through her thin jacket as she stood on the sidewalk, trying to figure out what to do next. Her phone buzzed. The landlord again. Then a text. "Final warning. Pay by Friday, or sheriff removes you both." Friday was in 2 days, and she'd just lost her primary income source. Zuri closed her eyes, fighting back tears. She couldn't break down. Not here. Not now. Safia was with Mrs. Chen next door, probably already asleep, innocent and trusting that her mother would fix everything like she always did. But for the first time in her life, Zuri Anderson had no idea how to fix this. She pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. After paying for Sophia's medication last week, she had exactly $237 to her name. The rent she owed was $1,200. Zuri! She spun around to find Byung-jun standing a few feet away, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Huang noticed you looked distressed when we left," he said carefully. "He wanted to ensure you were all right." "I'm fine," Zuri said automatically, pride stiffening her spine even as her world collapsed. "Thank you for your concern." Byung-jun studied her for a long moment. "Mr. Huang also wanted me to give you this." He handed her a business card. Heavy, expensive cardstock with minimal information. Just a phone number embossed in silver. "If you ever need assistance," Byung-jun continued, "call that number. Mr. Huang has resources that might be helpful." "I don't need," Zuri started. "Pride is admirable," Byung-jun interrupted gently, "but sometimes survival requires setting it aside, especially when you have someone depending on you." He nodded respectfully and walked away, leaving Zuri standing alone on the sidewalk, staring at the card in her hand. She should throw it away, should want nothing to do with a man like Huang Ji-won and whatever dark world he inhabited. Instead, she tucked the card carefully into her wallet, a life raft she hoped she'd never have to use. But in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered that hope might not be enough. The notice was taped to Zuri's apartment door when she and Safia arrived home from preschool the next day, an official eviction order giving her 48 hours to vacate the premises. "Mama, what's that paper?" Safia asked, her big brown eyes curious and trusting. "Nothing, baby. Just something from the landlord." Zuri forced brightness into her voice as she unlocked the door. "How about we make mac and cheese for dinner?" "With the special cheese?" Safia's face lit up. "With the special cheese," Zuri confirmed, her heart aching. That special cheese was just regular cheddar, but Safia didn't know that. She didn't know they were about to lose their home. She didn't know her mother had spent the entire day desperately searching for a job, any job, and found nothing that would pay enough, fast enough. While Safia played with her worn stuffed animals in the living room, Zuri stood in the kitchen, staring at the card Byung-jun had given her. She'd looked up Huang Ji-won that morning. What she'd found had terrified her. Connections to organized crime, rumors of violence, whispers of an empire built on fear and blood. But she'd also found something else. Stories of Ji-won protecting Korean businesses from exploitation, articles about anonymous donations to immigrant communities, rumors that he ran his organization with a strict code. No drugs, no human trafficking, nothing that hurt innocent people. Not that any of that made him safe. Not that it meant she should call. Her phone rang, an unknown number. "Hello, Ms. Anderson," a crisp professional voice. "This is calling from Fulton County Sheriff's Office. We're confirming the eviction scheduled for Friday at 9 a.m. You'll need to have all personal belongings removed by that time or they'll be disposed of." Zuri's hand tightened on the phone. "I understand. Thank you." She hung up and immediately called Brielle. "Hey girl, what's up?" "Brie, I need a huge favor." Zuri's voice cracked despite her best efforts. "Can Safia and I stay with you for a few days, just until I figure something out?" Silence. Then, "Zuri, I'm so sorry. My landlord just sent notice. He's doing renovations, and I have to be out by next week, too. I'm moving in with my sister in Marietta, and she barely has room for me." "It's okay," Zuri lied. "Don't worry about it." After they hung up, Zuri went through her contacts systematically. Every friend, every acquaintance, anyone who might help. But her circle was small. Other struggling single mothers, people working multiple jobs just to survive, folks who barely had room for themselves. By the time Safia went to bed that night, Zuri had run out of options. She sat on the worn couch in her tiny living room, surrounded by the modest life she'd built for her daughter. Safia's artwork covered one wall, bright, hopeful drawings of houses and families and sunshine. The small bookshelf held carefully chosen books from thrift stores. Everything here represented hours of work, sacrifice, love, and in 48 hours, it would all be gone. Zuri pulled out Ji-won's card again, her hands trembling. This was insane. She didn't know this man. He was dangerous, powerful, part of a world she wanted nothing to do with. But Safia was sleeping in the next room, trusting her mother to keep her safe, to keep them afloat. "Pride is admirable," Byung-jun had said. "But sometimes survival requires setting it aside." Before she could second-guess herself, Zuri dialed the number. It rang once, twice. "Hello, Zuri." Ji-won's voice was unmistakable, and the fact that he knew it was her before she'd said a word should have been alarming. "I wondered if you would call. How did you—" "I make it my business to know things," he said simply. "What do you need?" The directness threw her. No pleasantries, no games. Just straight to the point. Zuri swallowed hard. "I need help. I'm being evicted and I have nowhere to go. My daughter, she's only 6 and I can't—" "Where are you now?" "Home. My apartment. But we have to be out by Friday morning. I'll send someone to collect you. Pack what you need." "Wait, what? No, I was hoping maybe you knew of a job or a place I could afford." "Zuri." His voice was firm but not unkind. "You called because you're out of options. I'm offering you one. Accept it or don't, but don't waste both our time pretending you want something other than what you actually need." The bluntness should have offended her. Instead, it was almost refreshing. No pity, no condescension, just reality. "What do you want in return?" Zuri asked, because nothing in life was free. She'd learned that the hard way. "We'll discuss that tomorrow. For now, pack. Byung-jun will arrive in 30 minutes. I can't just— My daughter. Bring her. There's plenty of room and she'll be safe. You have my word." "The word of a—" Zuri stopped herself. "Of a criminal?" Ji-won finished, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Yes, but I don't break my promises, Zuri. Especially not to women with children who have nowhere else to turn. Pack, Byung-jun is already on his way." He hung up. Zuri sat there, phone in hand, heart racing. This was crazy. She should call back, say no, figure out something else. Sleep in her car if she had to. Use shelters, anything but accept help from Hwang Ji-won. But she looked at Safia's bedroom door and thought about her daughter's bright, trusting smile. Thought about what sleeping in a car or a shelter would do to that light. Thought about everything she'd already sacrificed to give Safia a better life than she'd had. Zuri stood up and started packing. Exactly 29 minutes later, there was a knock at her door. Byung-jun stood in the hallway, looking professional and unreadable in a dark suit. "Miss Anderson," he greeted with a slight bow. "May I help with your bags?" "I can manage." Zuri had 3 suitcases and 4 boxes, everything they owned. It was pathetic and liberating at the same time. "Is your daughter awake?" "No, she's sleeping. I'll carry her to the car if you'd like." Zuri wanted to refuse, but Safia was a solid weight when sleeping, and Byung-jun was already reaching for the boxes. She swallowed her pride and nodded. She woke Safia gently. "Baby, we're going on an adventure." Safia, still half asleep, wrapped her arms around Zuri's neck. "Like in my books?" "Just like that, sweetheart." Byung-jun carried their belongings, while Zuri carried Safia to a black SUV with tinted windows. The vehicle screamed wealth and power, so far removed from Zuri's decade-old Honda that it might as well have been from another planet. "Where are we going?" Zuri asked as Byung-jun pulled away from the curb. "Mr. Hwang's residence. He has a guest house that will suit your needs." "A guest house?" Zuri almost laughed. She'd gone from eviction to a guest house in less than an hour. They drove through Atlanta, the neighborhoods gradually shifting from her working-class area to tree-lined streets with gates and security cameras. Finally, Byung-jun turned into a long driveway, flanked by stone walls and lush landscaping. The main house was stunning. Modern architecture blended with traditional Korean elements, all clean lines and expensive materials. But Byung-jun drove past it to a smaller structure set back among the trees. "The guest house," he announced, parking. "It has 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen and private access. Mr. Hwang wanted me to assure you that your privacy will be completely respected." Zuri carried Safia inside and stopped. The guest house was nicer than any place she'd ever lived. Hardwood floors, contemporary furniture, a kitchen with appliances that probably cost more than her car. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a garden, illuminated by soft landscape lighting. "The master bedroom is upstairs," Byung-jun said, carrying in their boxes. "I'll bring the rest of your things. Please make yourself comfortable. Mr. Hwang will speak with you tomorrow morning." After Byung-jun left, Zuri put Safia to bed in the smaller bedroom, then stood in the middle of the living room trying to process what had just happened. She'd accepted help from a man she barely knew, a man involved in God knows what criminal activities. But Safia was sleeping in a warm bed, safe and comfortable. And for tonight, that had to be enough. Zuri was unpacking in the kitchen when she heard footsteps on the front porch. Her heart jumped, but it was just Byung-jun again carrying a bag. "Groceries," he explained. "Mr. Hwang thought you might need some basics. And this." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a stack of cash. Zuri counted it quickly. $2,000. I can't accept this, she said immediately. It's not charity. Consider it an advance on the job Mr. Huang will discuss with you tomorrow. What job? He'll explain. Sleep well, Miss Anderson. You're safe here. After he left, Zuri locked the door and sank onto the couch, envelope in hand. She should feel grateful, relieved. Instead, she felt terrified, because accepting this help meant entering a world she didn't understand, owing a debt to a man whose power was as attractive as it was dangerous. And the most frightening part, when she'd heard Ji-won's voice on the phone, when he'd promised she was safe, some part of her had believed him, had wanted to believe him. Zuri Anderson had survived by being smart, by never depending on anyone, but tonight she'd placed her and her daughter's lives in the hands of the most dangerous man in Atlanta. Tomorrow, she'd find out what that choice would cost her. Zuri woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Safia's delighted laughter. She bolted upright, heart racing, before remembering where they were. She found Safia in the kitchen, sitting at the counter with a plate of fresh fruit and waffles in front of her, and standing at the stove, dressed in black slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, was Huang Ji-won. "Mama," Safia beamed. "Mr. Ji-won made breakfast. He makes waffles shaped like hearts." Zuri froze in the doorway, taking in the surreal scene. The most feared man in Atlanta's underworld was making her 6-year-old daughter heart-shaped waffles. Ji-won turned, meeting her eyes. "Good morning, Zuri. Coffee?" Yes, thank you." She moved into the kitchen cautiously, hyper-aware of everything. The way he moved with casual grace, the faint scent of his cologne, the fact that he looked unfairly attractive doing something as domestic as cooking. He poured her coffee in a ceramic mug, added cream without asking, how did he know she took cream, and handed it to her. "Safia and I have been getting acquainted," Ji-won said, his tone lighter than she'd heard before. "She's been telling me about her school and her favorite books." "He knows Korean," Safia announced proudly, "and he said he'd teach me some words." "Did he?" Zuri looked at Ji-won, trying to reconcile this version of him with the man who ran a criminal empire. "If you approve, of course," Ji-won added, his eyes on Zuri's face. "We'll see," Zuri said carefully. "Safia, baby, why don't you go watch cartoons for a bit? Mr. Ji-won and I need to talk." "Okay, Mama." Safia grabbed her plate and skipped into the living room. Once they were alone, the atmosphere shifted. Ji-won leaned against the counter, his full attention now focused on Zuri, and she felt the weight of that focus like a physical touch. "You're uncomfortable," he observed. "I woke up to find a man I barely know cooking breakfast for my daughter in a house he owns. Yes, I'm uncomfortable." "Fair." Ji-won sipped his own coffee. "Let me be direct. I need someone I can trust in my household. Someone to manage certain aspects of my personal life that require discretion and organization. You're offering me a job? Personal assistant, household manager. The title is irrelevant. The position would involve coordinating my schedule, managing household staff, handling certain business arrangements that require a delicate touch. Nothing illegal," he added, reading her expression. "I keep my business and personal life very separate. And the pay? $80,000 a year, plus housing here in the guest house, health insurance for you and Safia, and a vehicle for your use." Zuri nearly choked on her coffee. That's more than I've made in the last 3 years combined. You would be on call frequently. The hours would be irregular, but you'd have flexibility for Safia's needs. Ji-won's expression was unreadable. "I'm told the elementary school 3 miles from here is excellent. I've already arranged enrollment if you accept." "You've already—" Zuri set down her coffee cup, her hands shaking. "Why? Why would you do all this for me? You don't know me." Ji-won was quiet for a long moment. "My mother was like you," he said finally. "Proud, strong. She worked herself to exhaustion trying to provide for me after my father died. She would accept no help, asked for nothing." His jaw tightened. "She died when I was 16, collapsed from exhaustion and stress. If someone had helped her, if she'd had even a fraction of the resources I'm offering you, she might still be alive." The raw pain in his voice shocked Zuri. This was vulnerability, real and unguarded. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "That must have been terrible. It taught me that pride is expensive, sometimes fatally so." Ji-won's eyes met hers. "I see that same pride in you, Zuri. That same determination to do everything alone. But you don't have to. Accept the help. For Safia's sake, if not your own." Zuri wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain her independence, her self-sufficiency. But she thought about Safia's bright smile at breakfast. The relief of not constantly worrying about rent and food, and whether they'd have a roof over their heads. What about the... She hesitated. What about your other business? You'll never be asked to participate in or even acknowledge that side of my life. You'll work here, in my home, keep my personal schedule, manage household issues, perhaps assist with some of my legitimate business interests. Nothing that would compromise you. And if I want to leave, then you leave. I won't keep you here against your will, though I'd ask for reasonable notice so I can find a replacement. It seemed too good to be true, which meant it probably was. There's something you're not telling me, Zuri said, studying his face. Ji-won's lips quirked in something almost like a smile. Perceptive. Yes, there is a complication. Which is? Baek Chul-soo. He runs a rival organization, and he's been pushing into my territory. The situation is escalating. By accepting this position, by living here, you and Safia would become visible parts of my household. That could make you targets. Zuri's blood ran cold. Targets? I won't lie to you, there is risk. However, this property is heavily secured. Byung-jun and my other men are highly trained, and I protect what's mine. The last words carried absolute conviction. You would be safer here than anywhere else in Atlanta. What's mine? Zuri repeated. I'm not yours. No, Ji-won agreed, but if you accept this position, you would be under my protection, and I take that responsibility seriously. Zuri stood, needing space to think. She walked to the window, looking out at the manicured gardens. Behind her, she could hear Safia laughing at something on TV. Her daughter sounded happy. Safe. When was the last time Zuri had heard her laugh like that? I need guarantees, she said finally, turning back to Ji-won. Safia's safety is non-negotiable. If there's ever a threat, any threat, I need to know immediately. Agreed. And I want it in writing. The salary, the housing, everything. A real contract. I'll have it drawn up today. And I want to be able to leave if I feel we're in danger. No questions, no notice required. Ji-won studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Acceptable. Though I think you'll find I'm very motivated to prevent any such danger from reaching you. Zuri took a deep breath. Then I accept. On a trial basis. 3 months. After that, we reassess. 3 months, Ji-won agreed. He extended his hand. Zuri shook it, feeling the warmth and strength of his grip. The moment their hands touched, she felt something electric pass between them. Awareness, attraction, something neither of them had asked for but couldn't deny. Ji-won felt it too. She could see it in the way his eyes darkened, the way he held her hand a moment longer than necessary. Thank you, Zuri said softly, for helping us, whatever your reasons. Mama! Safia came running in. Can we stay here, please? There's a garden and Mr. Ji-won said there's a swing set. Zuri looked at her daughter's hopeful face, then at Ji-won, who was watching them both with an expression she couldn't quite read. Yes, baby, Zuri said. We're going to stay here. Safia threw her arms around Zuri's waist, then, to both adults' surprise, did the same to Ji-won. He stiffened for a moment, clearly unused to such spontaneous affection, before his hand came down gently on Safia's head. Thank you, Mr. Ji-won, Safia said. You're welcome, Safia, Ji-won responded, using the Korean term of endearment. His eyes met Zuri's over Safia's head, and something passed between them. An understanding, perhaps, an acknowledgement that this arrangement had just become far more complicated than a simple employment contract. The next few days passed in a blur. Zuri threw herself into her new role with characteristic determination. Ji-won's household was surprisingly organized, but definitely needed a personal touch. She coordinated with the housekeeping staff, organized his schedule, and managed the constant stream of deliveries and appointments. She also started learning the rhythms of Ji-won's life. He was up early every morning, often working out in the home gym before dawn. He took his coffee black, preferred Korean food but had varied tastes, and worked constantly, phone calls, meetings, emails. But he also made time for Safia. In the evenings, he'd appear at the guest house with books in Korean or small gifts, nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. He taught Safia how to count in Korean, how to properly bow as a sign of respect, and Safia, starved for male attention after growing up without a father, bloomed under his notice. It terrified Zuri, because she could see her daughter getting attached, and she was starting to understand why. Hwang Ji-won was nothing like she'd expected. Yes, he was dangerous. She saw that in the way his men deferred to him, in the phone calls he took in clipped, commanding Korean. But he was also unexpectedly kind, thoughtful, protective in a way that made her feel cherished rather than controlled. And God help her, Zuri was attracted to him, devastatingly so. It came to a head one evening when she was working late in Ji-won's home office, organizing files while he reviewed contracts. The room was quiet except for the scratch of his pen and the soft music playing from hidden speakers. "Zuri," she looked up to find him watching her, his expression intense. "Yes? Why did you really call me that night?" The question caught her off guard. "I told you. I needed help. You could have called social services, shelters, other resources. I tried all of those," Zuri said honestly. "There was nothing available, or nothing that could help fast enough. And yet you called me, a man you'd met once whose business you find morally questionable at best." Zuri set down the file she was holding. "Do you want the truth? Always. Because when you looked at me in that diner, you didn't see a struggling single mother or just another waitress. You saw me, and I thought maybe that man wouldn't let a child sleep in a car if he could prevent it." She met his eyes. "Was I wrong?" "No," Ji-won said quietly. He stood, moving around the desk toward her. "You weren't wrong." He stopped a few feet away, close enough that Zuri could feel the heat radiating from his body, could see the conflict in his eyes. "This is complicated," he said. "I know. You work for me. You live in my house. There are rules about this kind of thing. I know that too. And yet I find myself thinking about you constantly, wondering what you're doing, finding excuses to see you, looking forward to Safia's bedtime because it means you might come to the main house to review tomorrow's schedule." Zuri's heart was pounding. "Ji-won, tell me I'm alone in this," he interrupted. "Tell me you feel nothing, and I'll back away. I'll keep this professional. But if you feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling, I need to know." Zuri should lie, should protect herself and Safia from this complication. But she'd built her life on honesty and resilience, and she wouldn't start lying now. "You're not alone," she whispered. Ji-won's control cracked. He closed the distance between them in 2 steps, his hand coming up to cup her face with surprising gentleness. "Tell me to stop," he said, his voice rough. "I can't." He kissed her then, and it was nothing like Zuri had imagined. It wasn't rough or demanding. It was tender, seeking, a question as much as a claim. His lips moved over hers with careful reverence, like she was something precious that might break. Zuri melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, all her resistance crumbling under the weight of want and need and something deeper she was afraid to name. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-won pressed his forehead to hers. "This changes everything," he said. "I know. Beck will see you as a weakness now, as leverage. Then we'll be careful." "Zuri." Ji-won pulled back enough to look at her. "I'm serious, the danger is real. I understand, but I'm not running, not from this." She touched his face, feeling the slight stubble on his jaw. "Unless you want me to." "What I want," Ji-won's voice went rough. "What I want is to keep you here, safe where I can see you. What I want is to wake up knowing you're close. What I want is to give Safia the stability you've been fighting so hard to provide her. What I want is you, Zuri Anderson. All of you. And that terrifies me because I've spent years making sure I don't want anything I can't control. No one can control this," Zuri said softly. "Whatever this is." "No," Ji-won agreed, "but I can protect it. Protect you, both of you." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Zuri let herself fall, into the kiss, into the feeling, into the terrifying possibility that she might have found something real with the last man she should ever want. When her phone buzzed with a text from the baby monitor app, Safia was awake. They broke apart reluctantly. "I need to go," Zuri said. "I know." Ji-won smoothed his thumb over her cheekbone. "Tomorrow, we need to discuss increased security measures. I want 2 of my men assigned specifically to you and Safia." "That seems excessive." "It's necessary. Please, Zuri, don't fight me on this." She saw the genuine concern in his eyes and nodded. "Okay." As she walked back to the guest house, Zuri's mind raced. She'd just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She'd kissed her employer, a crime boss, a man who lived in a world of violence and danger. But God help her, she'd also never felt more alive, more seen, more protected. And when she checked on Safia and found her daughter sleeping peacefully, surrounded by the security and comfort Ji-won had provided, Zuri couldn't bring herself to regret what had happened. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The threat came 3 days later. Zuri was at the grocery store with Safia, 2 of Ji-won's men trailing at a discreet distance, when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, Ms. Anderson." The voice was smooth, cultured, Korean accented. "My name is Baek Chul-soo. I believe we should meet. Zuri's blood ran cold. She'd heard that name. Ji-won's rival, the man he'd called dangerous. I have nothing to say to you. Oh, I think you do. I know where you are right now. I know your daughter is with you, beautiful child. It would be a shame if anything happened to her. Zuri's hand tightened on the phone, fear and fury warring inside her. One of Ji-won's men, she'd learned his name was Min-soo, immediately stepped closer, sensing trouble. If you touch my daughter, I have no interest in hurting children, Miss Anderson. I simply want to talk. Come to the address I'm about to text you. Alone. If you bring Hwang's men, or if you tell him about this conversation, well, Beck's voice went cold. Let's just say I have eyes everywhere. Think very carefully about your next move. The call ended. A text came through with an address in a part of town Zuri didn't know. Ms. Anderson? Min-soo was at her elbow. Is everything all right? Zuri's mind raced. If she told them, Beck might know. He'd said he had eyes everywhere. But if she went alone, she looked at Sophia, who was examining apples with serious concentration, completely oblivious to the danger. Everything's fine, Zuri lied. Just a spam call. Back at the guest house, Zuri's hands shook as she put away groceries. She had to tell Ji-won, but Baek's threat echoed in her mind. I have eyes everywhere. What if one of Ji-won's men was compromised? What if telling him put Sophia at greater risk? That evening, after putting Sophia to bed, Zuri made a decision. She would go meet Baek. She'd hear what he had to say, and then she'd tell Ji-won everything. This was her daughter's safety. She couldn't take any chances. She waited until midnight, then slipped out of the guest house. The address led her to an upscale restaurant in Buckhead, still open despite the late hour. Inside, the hostess led her to a private room in the back. Baek Chul-soo was younger than she'd expected, perhaps 40, handsome in a cold, calculated way. He stood as she entered, gesturing to a chair across from him. Miss Anderson, thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice, did I? Zuri remained standing. What do you want? Please sit. I ordered tea. I don't want tea. I want to know why you threatened my daughter. Beck's expression didn't change. I merely pointed out reality. You've involved yourself with a dangerous man, and that has consequences. Ji-won has never threatened me or my child. Not yet. But surely you understand what he is. What he's done. Baek poured tea calmly. Hwang Ji-won has built his empire on violence. He's eliminated rivals, controlled territories through fear. The man you're allowing around your daughter is a killer, Miss Anderson. And you're not? I'm honest about what I am. Does Hwang tell you about the people he's hurt, the businesses he's destroyed, the lives he's ruined? Zuri's stomach churned, but she kept her voice steady. Why am I here? Because I'm offering you a way out. Leave Hwang, take your daughter and go. I'll provide you with $50,000, a new identity if you want it, a fresh start somewhere safe. In exchange for what? Information. His schedule, his security details, the locations of his various holdings. You have access to all of it now. You want me to betray him. I want you to save yourself and your child. Hwang's empire is crumbling, Miss Anderson. I'm going to take everything he has. When I do, anyone associated with him will be caught in the crossfire. Is that really what you want for your daughter? Zuri thought about Sophia's laughter as Ji-won taught her Korean, about the gentleness in his hands when he'd touched her face, about the way he'd given them safety without asking anything in return. No, she said firmly. No, I won't betray him. And if you ever threaten my daughter again, You'll what? Beck's voice went sharp. You have no power here, Miss Anderson. You're a waitress playing house with a crime lord. You think he cares about you? You're a convenience, a toy. The moment you become a liability, he'll discard you. I think we're done here. Zuri turned to leave. You're making a mistake, Beck called after her. When everything falls apart, remember I offered you a way out. Zuri walked out of the restaurant, her whole body shaking. She pulled out her phone to call Ji-won and found 5 missed calls from him and a dozen texts, each more frantic than the last. Before she could dial, headlights flooded the parking lot. A black SUV screeched to a stop, and Ji-won jumped out, his face a mask of fury and fear. Where the hell have you been? He grabbed her shoulders, his hands shaking. I went to check on you. You were gone. Sophia was alone. Do you have any idea? Sophia's alone. Horror flooded through Zuri. I left her sleeping. I thought I was only going to be gone an hour. She woke up. She was terrified. Byung-jun is with her now, but Zuri... Ji-won's voice cracked. Where were you? Beck called. He threatened Sophia. He told me to come alone, not to tell anyone. I thought I was trying to protect her. Ji-won's expression went from furious to deadly calm, which was somehow more terrifying. "Get in the car." The drive back was silent, Ji-won's jaw tight, his hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. When they arrived, Byung-jun was in the living room with Safia, who was crying. "Mama," Safia launched herself at Zuri. "I woke up and you were gone. I thought you left me." "Baby, no, never. I'm so sorry." Zuri held her daughter tight, tears streaming down her own face. "I'm so sorry." Over Safia's head, she saw Ji-won's expression, pain and anger and something that looked like betrayal. After Safia finally fell asleep again, Zuri found Ji-won in his office standing by the window. "Ji-won, you went to meet Beck alone." His voice was flat. "After I specifically warned you about the danger, after I increased security specifically to prevent something like this. He threatened Safia. He said if I told anyone, so you trusted him over me." Ji-won turned and Zuri saw the hurt beneath his anger. "You put yourself in danger, left your daughter alone, and walked into what could have been a trap because a man known for lies and manipulation told you to. I was trying to protect her, by doing exactly what he wanted, by isolating yourself." Ji-won's voice rose. "Do you know what could have happened? He could have killed you, taken you hostage, used you against me. And I would have been powerless to stop it because I didn't know where you were. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking clearly." "No, you weren't. Because you still don't trust me. Even after everything, you don't trust me to protect you." The accusation hit hard because it was partially true. Some part of Zuri had still been protecting herself, still holding back. "You're right," she said quietly. "I should have told you immediately. I should have trusted you. I'm sorry." Ji-won's anger seemed to deflate. He sank into his chair, suddenly looking exhausted. What did Beck want? Zuri explained the meeting, the offer, the demand for information. With each word, she saw Ji-won's expression darken. "He's escalating faster than I anticipated," Ji-won said finally, "which means we need to accelerate our timeline." "Timeline for what?" "Ending this. Beck has been pushing into my territory for months. I've been patient, tried to resolve it without bloodshed. But he's crossed a line by involving you and Safia. That changes everything." "What are you going to do?" Ji-won looked at her, his eyes hard. "What I should have done months ago, remove the threat permanently." "You mean kill him?" "I mean protect what's mine. And like it or not, Zuri, you're mine now. You and Safia both. Which means anyone who threatens you has made themselves my enemy." The possessiveness should have alarmed her. Instead, some primal part of Zuri responded to it, craved it even. "I don't want you to do something that will put you in danger," she said. "Too late for that. The moment I let you into my life, into my heart, the danger was inevitable." Ji-won stood, moving toward her. "But I don't regret it. Even now, even with all this complication, I don't regret you." He cupped her face in his hands. "But you need to trust me, Zuri. Completely. No more secrets, no more trying to handle things alone. We're in this together now. Together," Zuri repeated, realizing she meant it. Despite everything, despite the danger and the complications, she wanted this. Wanted him. Ji-won kissed her, and it was different from before. Desperate, claiming, a promise and a plea all at once. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-won pressed his forehead to hers. "I have to handle Beck," he said, "and it needs to happen soon, before he makes another move. But I need to know you'll be safe while I do." "What do you need me to do?" "I'm sending you and Safia to a safe house, somewhere Beck can't find you, just for a few days until this is resolved. I don't want to leave you." "I know, but I can't focus on what I need to do if I'm worried about you. Please, Zuri, do this for me." She saw the fear beneath his calm exterior, the genuine terror of losing her, and she understood, because she felt it too. "Okay," she agreed, "but promise me something. Anything. Come back to us. Whatever it takes, whatever you have to do, come back." "I promise," Ji-won said, and sealed it with another kiss. But as Zuri packed bags for her and Safia that night, preparing for the safe house, a cold fear settled in her stomach, because she knew Ji-won was walking into danger for her, and if something happened to him, if he didn't come back, it would be her fault for not trusting him from the beginning. She'd finally found someone who saw her, protected her, loved her. And she might lose him because of one moment of misplaced doubt. The safe house was a cabin in the North Georgia mountains, beautiful and isolated. Byung-jun and 2 other guards stayed with them, but they were unobtrusive, giving Zuri and Safia space while maintaining security. Safia thought it was an adventure. Zuri tried to maintain that illusion, while her stomach churned with worry. 2 days passed with no word. Ji-won had warned her the silence was for security, but each hour without contact felt like torture. On the third day, Safia was napping when Byung-jun's phone rang. She watched his face change, saw something that looked like relief. "It's done," he said simply. "Mr. Huang wants to speak with you." He handed her the phone. "Ji-won?" Zuri's voice cracked. "It's over," Ji-won said, and she could hear the exhaustion in his voice. "Baek won't threaten you again. Are you okay? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. I'm coming to get you tomorrow morning." "What happened?" "I'll explain everything when I see you." "But Zuri—" His voice softened. "I kept my promise. I came back." Tears streamed down Zuri's face. "I knew you would." That night, Zuri couldn't sleep. She stood on the cabin's deck, wrapped in a blanket, looking at the stars. She heard footsteps behind her. "Byung-jun, keeping watch. He cares for you very much," Byung-jun said quietly. "I've worked for Mr. Huang for 8 years. I've never seen him like this with anyone." "Like what?" "Vulnerable. Human. You've changed him, Ms. Anderson. Given him something to protect beyond power and territory. Given him a reason to imagine a different future." "I'm scared," Zuri admitted. "This life, his world, I don't know if I can do it." "You're already doing it. You faced down Baek Chul-soo to protect your daughter. You chose to trust Mr. Huang even when you were terrified. That takes more courage than you realize. What if it's not enough? Then you figure it out. Together. That's what love is, isn't it? Choosing someone, even when it's complicated." Zuri thought about that. About choosing Ji-won despite the danger, despite the complications, despite everything that made it impossible. And she realized she'd already made that choice. The moment she'd called him for help. The moment she'd kissed him back. The moment she'd realized her heart had recognized something in him that her mind was still trying to understand. Ji-won arrived at dawn, looking exhausted but whole. Safia ran to him, and he scooped her up, holding her tight. "Did you catch the bad guys?" Safia asked seriously. "Yes," Ji-won said. "You're safe now. Both of you." His eyes met Zuri's over Safia's head, and she saw the truth there. Whatever he'd done, however he'd handled Baek, it was finished. On the drive back to Atlanta, with Safia asleep in the back seat, Ji-won explained, "Baek is alive, but he's no longer in a position to threaten anyone. His organization has been absorbed into mine. His lieutenants understood the alternative was worse." "You didn't kill him?" "I wanted to. For threatening you, for scaring Safia, for every moment of fear you experienced because of him. I wanted him dead." Ji-won's hands tightened on the wheel. "But you've changed me, Zuri. Made me want to be someone who doesn't always choose violence. So instead I gave him a choice. Work for me under strict supervision, or leave the country with nothing. He chose the former. That must have been hard, showing mercy." "It was. But it was also freeing. For years I've built my power on fear. But you see something in me worth protecting, worth believing in. I want to be that man, not just for you, but for Safia, for myself." Zuri reached across the console, taking his hand. "You already are." Back at the estate, life slowly returned to normal, or as normal as life could be when you were in love with a reformed crime boss. Ji-won began transitioning his organization toward more legitimate businesses. It would take time, he explained, but he was committed to building something he could be proud of. And through it all, Zuri and Safia were there, a family he'd never expected, never thought he deserved, but couldn't imagine living without. One evening, 2 months after the confrontation with Baek, Ji-won found Zuri in the garden. Safia was at a sleepover with a new friend from school, something that would have been impossible in their old life. "She's happy here," Zuri said as Ji-won joined her on the bench. "Are you?" Zuri turned to him, seeing the vulnerability in his question. This powerful man, still uncertain of her, still afraid she might leave. "Yes," she said simply. "I'm happy. Happier than I've ever been." Ji-won pulled her close, and they sat in comfortable silence watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. "I love you," Ji-won said suddenly. "I know I've never said it. I know my actions have shown it, but I need you to hear the words. I love you, Zuri Anderson. I love your strength and your pride and the way you protect those you care about with everything you have. I love the mother you are to Safia. I love how you've challenged me to be better. I love every stubborn, beautiful, resilient part of you." Zuri's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, even though you're bossy and overprotective and you make me crazy sometimes." Ji-won laughed, a real, genuine laugh that transformed his face. "Only sometimes?" "Okay, frequently. But I love you anyway." He kissed her then. sweet and slow, a promise of all the tomorrows they'd fought for. When they broke apart, Ji-won reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Okay, it's too soon," he said, "I know that, but I need you to have this, not as a proposal, not yet, but as a promise that I'm yours, that this is real, that I will spend the rest of my life making sure you and Safia never have to be afraid or alone again." Inside the box was a ring, a simple band with a single diamond, elegant and timeless. "It was my mother's," Ji-won explained. "The only thing I have from her. I want you to have it. When you're ready, when we're both ready. It can be an engagement ring, but for now it's a promise that I'm building a life I can share with you. A life you'd want to be part of." Zuri took the ring, sliding it onto her right hand. "It's perfect. You're perfect. You and Safia both. My family. Your family," Zuri agreed, leaning into his embrace. And as they sat together in the garden, Zuri thought about the prayer she'd whispered in that alley. Desperate, final, a last hope. She'd asked for a miracle, and somehow, impossibly, the Korean Mafia boss had been her answer. Not because he'd saved her from the streets, but because he'd seen her, really seen her, and chosen to build something beautiful from broken pieces. Together, they were creating something neither had thought possible. A home, a family, a love, strong enough to weather any storm. She whispered a final prayer, Zuri said softly, but the Korean Mafia boss came first and saved her from the streets. Ji-won looked at her, confused. "What? It's our story. That's how it started, isn't it? I was praying for help and you appeared." Ji-won's thumb traced her cheekbone tenderly. "No, Zuri. You saved yourself. You made the hard choices. You protected your daughter. You survived impossible circumstances. I just gave you the resources to do what you were already doing, being extraordinary. We saved each other then." "Yes," Ji-won agreed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "We did." Years passed, seasons changing like the pages of a well-loved book. The estate that had once been a temporary refuge became home, truly home. Safia's artwork covered the refrigerator in both the guest house and the main kitchen, evidence of a child who moved freely between both spaces, secure in the knowledge that she was loved and wanted. The guest house was now just where they slept. Their lives were fully integrated with Ji-won's. Some mornings, Zuri woke in Ji-won's bed, his arm wrapped protectively around her waist. Other times they'd find Safia had crawled between them during the night, a warm bundle of child-seeking comfort. Ji-won had been true to his word. His organization had transformed, slowly, carefully, but definitively. What had once been built on fear and violence was now a network of legitimate businesses: import, export, real estate, security consulting. The transition hadn't been easy, but Nam Jung-soo, the old veteran, had guided them through it with wisdom earned over decades. "You've honored your mother's memory," Nam had told Ji-won one evening. "She would be proud of the man you've become." Safia was 11 now, tall and confident, fluent in both English and Korean. She called Ji-won Appa, the Korean word for father, and he'd cried the first time she said it, though he pretended the moisture in his eyes was from allergies. She had Ji-won's discipline and Zuri's warmth, a perfect combination of the two people who loved her most. And if anyone at her prestigious private school questioned the unconventional family, a black mother, a Korean father who wasn't her biological parent, a household that sometimes entertained rather intimidating-looking businessmen, Safia shut them down with the kind of confident grace that made both her parents proud. Brielle was there too, part of their extended family. After her own struggles, Ji-won had offered her a position managing one of his legitimate businesses. She'd accepted, and now lived in a condo he'd helped her purchase, her friendship with Zuri stronger than ever. "Never thought I'd be working for the Korean Mafia," Brielle joked one evening over dinner. "Former Mafia," Ji-won corrected with a slight smile. "I'm a respectable businessman now." "Uh-huh, and I'm the Queen of England." But even Brielle had to admit, Ji-won had changed. The cold, dangerous man who'd walked into Grant's diner all those years ago had been transformed by love and family into someone warmer, if no less formidable. Dr. Benjamin Park had become a family friend, the pediatrician who'd treated Safia through childhood illnesses and celebrated her victories. He'd witnessed the transformation of their unconventional family and approved wholeheartedly. "Love looks different for everyone," he'd told Zuri once. "What matters is that it's real, and yours obviously is." On a crisp autumn evening, with leaves painting the estate in shades of amber and gold, Ji-won and Zuri stood in the garden where he'd first told her he loved her. Safia was at a school event. giving them rare time alone. "I have something to ask you," Ji-won said, his voice carrying that hint of nervousness that still appeared when he was uncertain of her. "You're already wearing my mother's ring," he continued. "You've been wearing it for 3 years, but I want to make it official. I want the world to know you're mine, that Safia is mine, that we're a family not just in practice but in name." He dropped to one knee, producing a second ring, this one a wedding band that matched the engagement ring. "Zuri Anderson, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that prayers are sometimes answered in unexpected ways? Will you let me be Safia's father officially, legally? Will you build this life with me, permanent and real?" Zuri's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, yes to all of it." Ji-won slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood, pulling her into his arms. "I love you. I will love you until my last breath and beyond." "I love you too," Zuri whispered against his lips, my unexpected answer to prayer. They married 6 months later, in a ceremony that blended both their cultures, a traditional Korean component and elements from Zuri's African-American heritage. Safia was the flower girl, beaming with pride as she watched her parents exchange vows. Beverly Grant was there, having apologized years earlier for letting Zuri go and rebuilding their relationship. Gladys Brooks would have been proud to see her granddaughter happy, secure, loved. And as Zuri walked down the aisle toward Ji-won, seeing the love and devotion in his eyes, she thought about that night in the alley. The desperation, the fear, the whispered prayer. She'd asked for help. She'd gotten a miracle. Not because a powerful man had swooped in to save her, but because 2 broken people had found each other and chosen every single day to build something beautiful from the wreckage of their pasts. Years later still, when Safia brought home her own partner, a young man who looked at her the way Ji-won looked at Zuri, they sat on that same garden bench and told their daughter the truth of how they'd met. "You were born from my first marriage," Zuri explained gently. "But Ji-won chose to be your father. He chose us when he didn't have to." "I know," Safia said, her eyes wise. "He tells me all the time that choosing to love someone is more powerful than biology. That family is what you make it." Ji-won's hand found Zuri's, their fingers intertwining with the ease of decades together. "Your mother saved my life," Ji-won told Safia. "I was lost, even with all my power and success. She showed me what actually mattered, gave me a reason to be better." "You saved each other," Safia said, echoing words she'd heard all her life. "Yes," Zuri agreed, leaning into her husband's embrace. "We did." And in the garden where prayers had been answered and promises kept, 3 people who'd found each other against all odds sat together, secure in the knowledge that love, real, deep, choosing love, could transform anything. Even a whispered prayer in a dark alley, even a crime boss who'd thought himself beyond redemption. Even the impossible distance between 2 worlds that should never have touched. Love had bridged it all, and in the end, that was the only miracle that mattered.